Here's an idea. Everybody has a right to be forgotten. Let's say tomorrow you enter and win a hot dog eating contest. You just house the competition. Dog after dog, you are an unstoppable Frank Mangler. People are so impressed, they take out their phones, they make videos, everything. And then 10 years from now, after many considered life choices, including becoming a serious vegetarian, you're applying for a job at PETA. Except, right there on YouTube for all to see, your face, the hot dog-alypse, Hamageddon. Thank you for your resume, we'll be in touch. Or far more realistically, though hopefully unlikely, let's say you go bankrupt. A bunch of years pass, you get back on your feet, steady job, no debt, feeling good, you want to buy a house. You go to the bank and the lending agent simply Googles your name, bankruptcy. And there you are, years ago, on some public record, fiscal pants around your fiscal ankles. You are a risk, and so, no loan. In both of these situations, the internet's impeccable memory could lead to trouble. But at this point, you might be asking, who is gonna Google really for a loan?
The Human Torch was denied a bank loan.
Well, let's talk actualities. Mario Castejo Gonzalez from Spain had lots of debt in the 90s, so much so that his house was foreclosed upon. A newspaper then reported on the foreclosure. Castejo Gonzalez paid his debts, and while his financial troubles disappeared, that newspaper report did not. It even got digitized and put on the internet. A simple Google search brought it right up. He asked the newspaper to take it down, and they wouldn't. He asked Google Spain to remove it, and they said that he had to talk to Google US. The whole thing ended up in the Spanish courts, who then took it to the highest EU court, who said that Google has to unindex those search results. They point to things which are no longer useful or noteworthy, and so the European Court of Justice ruled that Google must comply with Castejo Gonzalez's request and provide similar functionality for others. If there is public information about private citizens indexed by search engines, and those private citizens want that public information gone. And so begins the discussion of the right to be forgotten. Well, sort of. Much older and not specifically internet French and Italian laws provide what is called a right of oblivion, where a convict can block printing of details regarding their misdeeds after they have paid their debt to society. This emphasis on personal privacy might seem extreme to many Americans, which we'll talk about in a second, but it does have a foot in history. Victor Meyer Schoenberger, the author of Delete, The Virtue of Forgetting in the Digital Age, talked to The New Yorker about how personal information collected innocently by European cities in the early 20th century was used by the Nazis to track people down by religion and ethnicity. He suggests that Europe's past inspires a suspicion towards permanent comprehensive records, that their attitude towards collecting and storing personal data is a careful one. Google's head counsel agrees that this careful attitude is, quote, a European concept, and given that, the right to be forgotten needs limiting, he says. Which it is limited to Europe. Currently, if Google unindexes a search result from google.es or .fr or .de at the request of a European citizen, that search result is still indexed on google.com. The EU courts are suggesting, but ultimately can't force Google and other search engines like Yahoo and Bing, who are also unindexing search results in the EU, to adopt the right to be forgotten worldwide. Google has even basically said, yeah, no. That's not gonna happen. Why would they say that? Well, there are three big concerns, and here is where we get to some of the America stuff. One, does this encroach on the freedom of speech? Bloggers, journalists, publishers, they should be able to write about whatever they want, even if the people it's about aren't super psyched about it. Concern two, same issue, different angle. Is this censorship? If someone can zap stuff about them that they don't like out of existence, that seems bad. Castejo Gonzalez himself has said, I support freedom of expression and do not defend censorship. What I did was fight for the right to request deletion of data that violates the honor, dignity, and reputation of individuals. The EU Commission even wrote that the right to be forgotten isn't about making prominent people less prominent or criminals less criminal. In other words, freedom of expression and from censorship and the right to be forgotten are not mutually exclusive. NNG Andrade has suggested reconsidering the right to be forgotten as the right to be different from oneself. It's not about censorship as much as it's about how perfect memory can sometimes be an enemy of the future. Imagining people complexly through the network is already tough. We're different people in different places at different times. Maybe the right to be forgotten prevents becoming unfairly chained to your past. Which brings us to concern number 3. Does this allow the rewriting of history? We've argued on Idea Channel before that even the smallest bit of seeming ephemera could hold great historical significance. Now, are we saying that some of it should just get axed?
Here's Johnny.
But Google's not deleting things, they're unindexing search results. So maybe the bigger question is whether people should be allowed to bury or disconnect from their own past. That is a big question. I see a related anxiety on social media when people habitually write posts and then delete them not long after. There are lots of reasons you might do this. Maybe you post something you instantly regret, or maybe you write something inflammatory with every intention of deleting it immediately, sort of like internet shouting into a pillow. Or so you have a high follower count with not much content. But some people post and delete because having a persistent, publicly available self-document is terrifying, or embarrassing, or just weird. I've heard some people refer to this as delete culture, and developers at least are responding to this desire to be forgotten, to always already be forgotten, to have never been remembered by the internet. Apps like Snapchat, Yik Yak, Secret Whisper, and a surprising number of others, so many sources in the doobly-doo, are premised on impermanence, anonymity, or both. Of course, as some of us learned the hard way with Snapchat, impermanence doesn't necessarily equate with deletion. And as for the others, time will tell exactly how anonymous they really are. Personally, I don't post anything on Yik Yak that I wouldn't say to my own mother. Hi, Mom. Anyway, the right to be forgotten, delete culture, these apps, they all speak to the perceived, though possibly actual, effective permanence and influence of the internet. Many people feel like if they put themselves on it, or if their selves end up on it, it will become monumentalized. It will tower over, transcend some self that they hope eventually to become. Reputation.com's founder sees it as unfair that Disney or Fox or Viacom can handily have their media scrubbed from Google's search index, but such a thing is nearly unthinkable for a private citizen's public data, even if that public data is out of date. The question is whether private citizens do have the same right to control their public data as media empires do over their copyrighted material. Some people say yes, some people say all people do, and that the right to be forgotten is and should be considered nothing short of a universal right. A human right. Ultimately, the effectiveness of and potential damage caused by enforcing such a right will be determined by the way it is implemented and how people use it or abuse it. But before we get to that point, it's worth reasoning out what it means to support such a right to be... I just completely lost my train of thought. What were we talking about? What do you guys think? Does everyone have a right to be forgotten? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe.